Human figure. I was a sophomore in college. I was visiting Mr. Yoshimi, a senior member of the occult circle, at his apartment. Mr. Yoshimi was in the same grade as a senior member of the occult circle at my university, whom I consider a master of occultism, and had been a member of the circle since his entrance. Yoshimi-san and I were born and raised in Tokyo and lived in Tokyo until we graduated from high school. He came to Okayama from Tokyo when he entered school. While his teacher is majoring in Buddhist art in graduate school, Mr. Yoshimi is majoring in pharmacology in graduate school. Mr. Yoshimi is a person who only occasionally shows up at the circle and was introduced to me by my master when I was a sophomore. Since he is a fellow circle member of the same grade as my master, he and my master seem to exchange information on circle activities and occult-related topics. I got into the kotatsu and said I wanted something to drink, and Mr. Yoshimi made me a cup of coffee. Mr. Yoshimi likes coffee, and sometimes you can smell the aroma of coffee from his breath. Mr. Yoshimi blurted out that Okayama is far from the ski resorts of Joshinetsu and Tohoku. Mr. Yoshimi likes skiing, and I had always known that he had a Rossignol ski board on the balcony of his apartment. He started skiing when he was in elementary school and said he had what he called a first-grade skiing certificate. Yoshimi-sen got out of the kotatsu, bent down with his back to me, opened a drawer of his desk, and started looking for something. He took something out of the desk, smiled at me, and showed me a badge with a Japanese flag on it. He told me that this was his first-class skiing badge. When Mr. Yoshimi returned to the kotatsu, I asked him if he had any scary stories about snow or skiing. Mr. Yoshimi told me the following story. Mr. Yoshimi returned to Tokyo from Okayama during his spring vacation. He had planned a trip to a ski resort in the Tohoku region with some friends from Tokyo. When she returned home, her friends in Tokyo had already booked a ski bus tour. They said the ski resort they were going to was quite big. They said there were many long courses. They also said the snow quality was good. Mr. Yoshimi went to the bus depot in Shinjuku at night, where his friends were already waiting for him. It was cold but not snowing in Tokyo. Everyone got on the bus together and the bus headed for Tohoku on the expressway. It was a late-night bus. Mr. Yoshimi had taken overnight buses for skiing several times, but he was not used to it. He tried to sleep that night, but only managed to get some shallow sleep. When I opened my eyes early the next morning, the bus had already gotten off the highway and was already in the vicinity of the desired ski resort. The scenery seen from the bus window was a silver world. Mr. Yoshimi was looking at the snowy landscape from inside the bus for the first time in a long time. The bus arrived at the inn near the ski resort where they had made reservations. It was not snowing, but it was cold when they got out of the bus. The two bus drivers were sequentially removing their luggage from the trunk compartment under the bus body. Yoshimi and his group removed their own ski equipment and luggage and headed for the gate of the ryokan. A group of other guests with reservations followed behind Yoshimi and his group. The hotel seemed to have been built for skiers. The building was more magnificent than I had expected. A middle-aged woman, who appeared to be the innkeeper, was already waiting for us near the gate. She was probably in her late 40s. She was fair-skinned and had a beautiful face for her age. The woman looked slightly tired at first, but when Mr. Yoshimi and his staff approached the inn, "Good morning. Welcome," she said to us with a smile. At first, we were taken to the lounge on the first floor of the ryokan with other guests. We were told where the basement ski storage area was, so we all went to the basement ski storage area and put our ski equipment there. Then I returned to the lounge with my friends. A little while later, the woman and 3 or 4 young employees came in. The woman called out the name of Yoshimi's friend who had made a reservation at that inn. Another young employee called out the name of another group of guests. Mr. Yoshimi and his friends were escorted by the woman to a Japanese-style room on the second floor. The room was clean and heated. The rooms are also somewhat spacious. While Mr. Yoshimi and the others were putting down their luggage and taking a break, the woman in question brought them rice balls and tea. The woman was the proprietress of the ryokan. The rice balls she brought were quite large. The reason for this was that the staff mistakenly thought that the Yoshimis were male guests and made the rice balls large. I tried the onigiri. The rice balls were delicious, probably because they were made from rice grown in a rice-producing region. After eating the onigiri, Mr. Yoshimi and the others felt sleepy and took a nap in their room. Around noon, Yoshimi and the others woke up from their nap and decided to go to the slopes. We all skied various courses during the day. Because it was a weekday, it was not so crowded. It was not sunny during the day, but it was not snowing. Mr. Yoshimi skied mainly on the long runs. The ski resort has night skiing facilities, so it is possible to ski even after the evening. That day, it began to snow around evening. In the evening, Mr. Yoshimi and his friends returned to the ryokan where they were staying for dinner. Everyone was tired and chatting in their rooms after dinner, but Mr. Yoshimi went to the ski resort again after dinner alone. Yoshimi went to the ski resort again after dinner alone, because it was a weekday night and the course was empty. Since she lives in Okayama, opportunities to go skiing are scarce. Such a situation seemed to motivate him to go to the night skiing. Told by her friends to be careful, she left the ryokan carrying her ski boards and poles and headed for the ski slopes. Mr. Yoshimi arrived at the ski resort. As expected, there were few skiers as it was a weekday evening. He headed for the lift station of one of the longer runs. Yoshimi got on the lift and looked around. She saw clusters of trees covered with white snow. It had started snowing around evening, but she thought the white scenery at night was indescribable. Yoshimi left the course from the lift landing and looked out over the course at night. He had a bird's eye view of the long course, thinking it was different from the daytime atmosphere. At first, Yoshimi thought he was the only skier on the course. Then I spotted what looked like a black figure in the shade of a tree at the edge of the course. It was located diagonally below Mr. Yoshimi. It was too dark to see clearly. I wondered what it was doing. It might have been someone who had gone off the course and fallen down. Mr. Yoshimi went out to the course and started skiing. Thinking that the figure he saw earlier could have been a skier who had fallen, he skied to the vicinity of where he thought the figure had been. However, he did not see anything that looked like a black figure. Thinking it was just my imagination, I resumed downhill and heard a woman's voice coming from behind or diagonally above me. I don't know what she was saying, but I heard a woman's voice. Mr. Yoshimi stopped his skis again. He turned around and looked diagonally upward toward where he thought the black figure had been. There was a woman standing alone in the shade of a tree outside the ski run. The darkness of the room makes it difficult to make out her face, but the height of her body indicates that she is female. She appeared to be wearing a skirt, had a slender body, and long hair. She was not wearing any ski wear or winter clothes in spite of the fact that it was midwinter and snowing. He was not wearing any kind of hat. Of course, they were not wearing goggles. It was impossible for her to be wearing a skirt under such cold and snowy weather. The woman seemed to be looking at Mr. Yoshimi. It was creepy. Mr. Yoshimi became scared, shifted his gaze toward the foot of the mountain, resumed his descent, and headed toward the foot of the mountain. After a while, Mr. Yoshimi arrived at the bottom and turned around to where the woman had just been. Upon closer inspection, there seemed to be nothing there. Mr. Yoshimi walked a little further down the base and headed for the lift station on a different course than the one he had just taken. He had skied that course several times during the day, and it was quite long. Mr. Yoshimi got on the lift of that course. Ms. Yoshimi seemed to be the only one who took the lift on this course. She was again enjoying the nighttime snow view of the ski resort that she could get a bird's eye view of from the lift. A little while after riding the lift, she looked toward the top of the course where the lift landing was located. There is a figure near the lift landing. For a skier, something is not right. She does not have a stock, is not wearing a ski board, and does not seem to be wearing ski clothes. As I gradually approach the figure, I see that it appears to be a woman in a skirt who was on the course earlier. It was impossible. At that hour, there was absolutely no way that she could have walked from the course she was just skiing down to the top of this course. Even if that woman had used skis, it would have been impossible. Mr. Yoshimi must not have seen her while he was on skis. It is impossible. No skier would be wearing a skirt in the first place. At first I was not sure, but then I realized that the woman was looking toward Mr. Yoshimi. She seemed to be staring at Mr. Yoshimi's face in the falling snow. The lift that Mr. Yoshimi is riding is approaching the lift landing, but that woman has been at the lift landing the whole time. If this situation continues, Mr. Yoshimi will encounter that woman at the lift landing. Mr. Yoshimi remembered that there is a relatively flat area near the lift landing where the height from the lift chair to the snow surface is a few tens of centimeters to 1 meter. Wait for that flat spot to come. The place comes. Determined, I climbed down from the chairlift. She lands well on the snow. Without a glance at the woman, he turns his attention to the course and quickly heads out onto the course and descends to the bottom. He speeds down the slope. He does not look backward during the descent. Look only at the front. Descend to the foot of the slope without stopping to ski. We arrive at the bottom and go to where the nighters are resting. At that point, we finally look behind us toward the top of the course. No one was there. Mr. Yoshimi removed his skis from his shoes and hurried back to the ryokan where he was staying. When he returned to the ryokan, the proprietress, who was working on the first floor, smiled and said, "Welcome home." Ms. Yoshimi gave the proprietress a fake smile and said, "Tadakamasu, I'm home," and entered her room on the second floor. The room was covered with a futon, but my friends were chatting and laughing at a table in front of the TV. "Welcome back. Hey, nighty night, you didn't slip much, did you?" One of my friends said to me, "It's cold on the slopes." It was cold on the slopes, so I only skied 2 runs and came back. Yoshimi replied. He did not talk about the shadowed woman. Mr. Yoshimi only took a bath that night and went to bed early. Since that time, Mr. Yoshimi has not encountered the woman in the shadows. This is the end of this story. Thank you for listening to the end.